When the company was small, everyone knew everyone's story. The founder knew who had a sick parent at home. The supervisor knew who was saving for a first house. The accountant knew which employee had been working late without being asked. There was no HR department. There were only people. As the company grew, new buildings appeared, machines arrived, systems became more sophisticated, dashboards multiplied, reports became thicker. The founder now knew revenue by product line, but no longer knew the dreams of the people producing it. Managers learned to read numbers faster than they could read emotions. Meetings became efficient. Conversations became shorter. Performance was measured. Potential was assumed. Engagement was discussed. Belonging was expected. The organization continued to grow. Then something curious happened. The company had more talent than ever before, yet people seemed harder to retain. It had more technology than ever before, yet collaboration became slower. It had more policies than ever before, yet managers struggled with people issues. It had more data than ever before, yet fewer meaningful insights about human behavior. Nobody could quite explain why. Whenever a challenge appeared, another process was added. Whenever a conflict emerged, another policy was written. Whenever motivation declined, another initiative was launched. The organization was treating symptoms while searching for causes. Then one day, a manager sat across from a high-performing employee who had just resigned. The compensation was comparative. The benefits were good. The career path looked promising. Everything on paper seemed right. So why are you leaving? The manager asked. The employee paused, then replied, "Somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling seen. Not underpaid, not overworked, not unsupported, unseen." The manager had no answer because there was no column for that in the dashboard. No KPI for feeling valued. No report measuring whether someone believed their contribution mattered. Yet that single conversation explained more than months of analytics. In every boardroom, there was an empty chair. No one noticed it. The finance team thought the chair belonged to numbers. Operations believed it belonged to productivity. Sales assumed it belonged to growth. Technology claimed it belonged to innovation. But the chair belonged to something else. It belonged to the human story behind every result. The story of why people stay, why they leave, why they trust, why they disengage, why teams succeed, why cultures collapse, why leaders inspire, why organizations outlive their founders. The most successful organizations eventually discover a simple truth. Buildings do not create culture. Strategies do not execute themselves. Processes do not innovate. Technology doesn't care. People do. And this is where the real lesson begins. The role of HR is not simply to manage people processes. It is to help organizations understand the consequences of their decisions on human beings. When a restructuring is planned, HR should ask what employees will experience, not just what organization will gain. When a leader is promoted, HR should ask whether that person can build trust, not just deliver results. When engagement declines, HR should look beyond survey scores and listen to the stories behind them. When turnover rises, HR should investigate not only who left, but what made them stop believing they belonged. Organizations that thrive are not always the ones with the best systems. They are the ones whose leaders remain curious about people. They ask questions. They listen carefully. They notice behavior before it becomes data. They understand that every metric is a human experience. Revenue comes from effort. Innovation comes from curiosity. Collaboration comes from trust. Performance comes from commitment. And commitment comes from how people feel when they come to work each day. The discipline responsible for understanding these connections is often invited after decisions are made, when it should have been shaping the decisions from the beginning. Perhaps HR was never about hiring policies, performance forms, or organizational charts. Perhaps HR has always been the study of how human beings come together to create something greater than themselves. And perhaps the future of HR is not about managing resources. It is about understanding humanity at work. Because every organization eventually learns the same lesson. When people feel seen, they contribute. When they feel valued, they commit. When they feel trusted, they grow. And when organizations forget this, the empty chair at the table quietly grows larger. Then any strategy, system, or process can fail.